everybody, is everyone okay with being recorded?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Corine, are you okay with being recorded?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Well, good morning and thank you for joining us, Ms. Corine. We're really excited to have you here today with us. We are really looking forward to hearing more about your experience with Indian education and having conversations with you about what experiences you had through that unique time in your life. We have a set of questions that we want to ask you, and we just wanted to give you a heads up. We're going to try and stay on track with our questions today. So if we get a little bit off track or start talking about different things, we might redirect back to the questions just to stay on track.
Okay.
We want to try not to cut you off or be rude. We just want to try and make sure that we stay on topic as much as we can today.
All right.
All righty. Well, we are really thrilled to hear about your experience starting with Indian education and being one of the first pioneers with the program. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got plugged in and how you got started?
With Indian education?
Yes, ma'am.
I had was presently at the time that Indian education came to Terrebonne Parish, I was an employment of Terrebonne General Medical Center, and I was looking for to get into another job that had better hours because I had 2 children and I wanted the hospital has shift work a lot of times, weekends and evenings and so forth, and I needed something where I would be home in a better time for my children. So I decided to start looking for another job, and so I was checking all these businesses out in around town, and I came up to the school board and decided to go on and check it out. But then after checking several businesses and so forth, and when I came to Terrebonne, the school board, I decided, golly, I already went to them and they wouldn't even give me the time of day, so I'm not going to go back through that. But then I rode past the building, and then I went down the block and decided, no, I'm going to go back. I think I'll just go back in. So I turned around and I come up to the parking lot and went in, and sure enough, they said they would see me. That was a surprise to me right off the bat. So that's the time. I didn't know it, but Indian education had come into the parish and they were trying to put it in place. And they were looking at that time for a person to work with the program that would serve as an all-around person, from secretary to program person and so on and so forth. So I decided, they wanted to talk to me about my experience here and there. So sure enough, I was interviewed by 2 different people that first day. And they asked me, well, how did you know about this program? Did somebody tell you? Did you see it in the paper? Did you know? And I said, no, I just happened to walk in. And so we talked about it and everything, and I went on home. And then the very next day, I got another call to come in for another interview. And that second interview, they hired me. And so I started, and there were, at the time they hired me, they also hired, I think it was 3 other girls to work into the schools as teacher's aide, paraprofessionals such as that. And they mostly everything was, the first priority was given to a Native American person. So these girls were able to go into the program, and it was very good because they grew up among the children and they were familiar with pretty much what they had to do into the school. So that was really good. So in 1974 is when we started. So those three girls and myself started with the program, and we had a director, a supervisor over that program, but he wasn't a native. He was he was just a school board supervisor that got that particular job to oversee programs in the federal department. So about 5 years later, or right at 5 years, I think they hired Kirby Verrett because they wanted somebody to go into to see about the children's attendance, because and he could go into the home and make visits and just communicate with the parents and everything about their children's problems and everything. So they hired him. He came on board, and then from then on out, it was he and I in the central office, and the girls, the three girls, into the school. So for a number of years, that's the way it was. And so as time went on, Kirby and I were good partners. We were able to understand the program, and then they started sending us to conferences across the country every year, every October, I believe it was. And we learned a lot about what we could do for our community, what we could do through education, and how we could apply anything of our culture into the program. So it is a good program. It's not the same today as it was when we started, but I felt like it really was helpful to our community. And so, but the only thing is they funded only those schools that had, say, 10 or more Native American child in their school, or maybe a little more than that, but it wasn't, they wouldn't go, very few schools in the town area got their services. And to this day, we still don't have enough of the schools in the system that's servicing our Indian education, because they're still holding on to this, the number has to be met for sure. And that's not always so, because they haven't taken an inventory. I mean, they have the numbers of where these children are in the different schools, but they didn't move any program into these schools as yet. And this has been a long time, so I don't know why they're not putting more, more help into those schools. They have programs that I guess you could call them, let's see, like the culture. They have November, for instance. They have a group of local people that works with the program, and they're artists and crafters and so forth, like Miss Janie, and maybe those that do drumming and beading and anything else. They have those come in once a year during the months of November and go into the different schools and do presentation per se. And that serves as many schools as they can get. But the principal has to request them. We can't say, we'll go into this school tomorrow, and the principal has to be the one inviting you in. They have to request you to come to their school. So they move from class to class, or maybe they might have two classes they might do in one school, and such as that. But that was how I started with Indian education. It was from the very beginning, and then as time went on, there's been very little change in the program itself. But anyway, it really has helped the Bayou communities. I mean, that program moved into those schools and did a wonderful help with the what is it, language arts program, and say tutoring with math and science and so forth, And so this has been, especially with the tutoring program, it's been wonderful to be able to just everything they're doing. And the girls that are working these programs, they're so good with the children, and all these children, it shows a big difference in their grades and everything. So this is how, I began with, I was at one of the first one, well, the very first one hired.
It sounds like you were
So
a real pioneer, and we were just wondering and curious to hear, how did y'all go about crafting curriculum? Because at that point you didn't have access to the internet. Where did you locate resources? How did that start?
the program itself, the lessons and so forth.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What are you saying here? Say it again.
We were curious to know how y'all put together a curriculum. We could imagine it
Okay.
be especially challenging locating resources when you didn't have access to the internet at that time.
One of the things is that this Indian education conferences, they had a lot of material and stuff that they would share with the schools that are participating in the program. So they connected with the schools where we were working from, and then they hired. How would you, the title of the person? It seems like it's been so many years. I got to stop and think. A person that actually works in the program to introduce these programs, to make sure that they're going to put this program out in a way that's going to be the children, it's going to fit the children's cultural needs, and also they're going to be learning the English, work in their grade to learn about this language arts program. If they worked it, they had a special way of doing it, but they also, what they would do would take a program from the school board here, some of them, and then just kind of adapt it to the children, to make it work for the children, the Indian children, where their needs are most needed. I don't know if you can understand what I'm saying.
Were the people who were doing that, were they also native, or was it people that worked for the school board?
No, they were not native, but they just worked for the school board. But we hired a person to work, say, after Kirby was hired, there's another person down the road, they moved in, and she wasn't a native, but she had lived down the bayous and knew the culture well.
Mm-hmm.
And she was super smart in putting things together and getting, she always would bring Kirby and I or some other people from the community to work with her to see if this was all right, the way it would go. Did we think that was going to work for our children? And then she would run it by somebody else. There was a committee that kind of oversaw this to make sure they were, given some lessons that would be beneficial to the children and for their own to match their own way of life and understanding of, they just, like, for instance, some children are given a test and they're asking, this is a long time ago, from down the bay, and say, well, how do you feel if you were to ride in a limousine, how would you feel? Or if you get on a sailboat, just they'd use example that these children never knew about, the poor children,
Mm-hmm.
So they had to go in and change that completely. community, and they had to make some changes there to fit the community, the children they were addressing. So this lady was really good with that, and she worked with the community, the local Native American way of life to make the lessons, adapt to the children's way culture.
Hey,
And
Miss
then
Brittany, I just wanted to cut in on, like, I remember those questions. I was a product of the Indian education in Jefferson Parish, and I remember everything that you're saying. Like, they asked me those questions. I thought it was weird at the time, and I never made the connection until you said that. But yeah, and even the tutoring and stuff. I know Judy Billiot tutored my sister. She mother, because my sister was having trouble in math and stuff like that, and she helped her. And then even being able to go to the summer camps at Worley. I think Worley was the junior high then in West Wego. We did summer camps and stuff too. But like I was curious, so because it was the first time that anything in the state of Louisiana had done that. Y'all said that they brought you and Kirby to places to learn about how to do it. Did y'all ever talk with other tribes and see how they were doing, or is it just y'all just?
Yes, we worked with. We would have meetings with Jefferson Parish people and Lafourche Parish. Lafourche was really good on the moving up with Brenda. Brenda was very good. Brenda Dardar Robichaud.
Yeah, I remember her.
She was our former chief. Well, at the time, she was just coming out to. She was hired for Lafourche to work like I was. So, and really and truly, she almost ran that program because they didn't have a supervisor like I did directly over us to move things, and make sure we had it. So Brenda had that to do. And she really, she really put everything she had learned at these conferences, and she was always looking for something to make the program better, and she really did some great things in Lafourche Parish with that program. And they too had the paraprofessionals and the they had it seems like they had a better connection with their community, like the sheriff's office even assisted with busing the children to camps or one thing and another. They their government offices there kind of worked better with them than ours did. Ours just, we had to pay to hire a bus. We had to, go through the channels of whatever. But as far as the program itself, I think it was a great thing for this program to come into these communities. And let's see, what other parishes had that program? Jefferson was big, Lafourche and Terrebonne. I think we were the three biggest program. I think we really carried it. Who?
St. Mary Parish?
I'm sorry, say it again.
You said you couldn't remember what other parishes had. Did St. Mary's have a? Yeah, they did too.
St. Mary always was working to get into the program, but they never really got there. They just never really got there. It was always a problem here or there, or I don't know. There was something. There wasn't a group of people or several people that would get together, like in the different parishes the program went into. There was always several people that was always interested in trying to bring this into the classroom for our children, and really kept harping at the school board for this type of program to go into. And this St. Mary was always hanging behind, and they never really got the program. They talked about applying for it. We taught them what to do and everything, but they just did not ever come through. Excuse me.
What was the process for other parishes to get into the program? You said they had to apply.
Their program, their parish had to apply for it, and they had to have so many children to you be able to qualify for it. You know, they had to have a certain amount of children, and they had to be most of them had to be on the tribal roll. And the further you moved into other parishes, the less children there were that were that had
were
to
enrolled.
register, and they weren't enrolled, you know, like, but, and so anyway, it was something else. And then too, they didn't show the interest of wanting, I don't know if they didn't understand or didn't have anybody in central office to really who could work with them, but they just, it never came through the other programs. Now the other tribes in Louisiana were into the programs, you know, the federal programs, and those, even the other state, the other tribes, you know, like the Choctaws and all the others, you know, not all of them, because they already, if they received federal programs already, sometimes they didn't get the Indian education program, but they had a program in place for their children.
Once a parish got approval for Indian education, what did the budget look like? Did you feel like y'all had enough funding to really do what you wanted to do with the program?
Yes, we did. We felt like we did. The only thing they did not put in there or didn't support us on was to have a camp attached to that. Now they do, but back then they didn't. And we had bigger numbers back then than I see that they have today. But how we got the camps going and to be able to get the buses to take us out of town and get a building out of town and be out there, we decided to go ahead and, you know, Pat and I and a couple other people formed the Louisiana Indian Education Association. LAEA is what we called it. And we decided to do a camp for all the Indian education program, or the groups, you know, children and school children, certain grades. And we were able to develop that, and that was able to, we had funds, we had a grant to take care of that. And then school board worked with us to come in with us, and Terrebonne did anyway, and Lafourche, to send their children to camp with us. So we worked together.
Can you tell us a little bit more about how that came to be, whose idea that was, what the process for making that a reality looked like?
You mean for LAEA?
Yes, ma'am.
Or just, okay. I don't know, I don't really think there was too much to it other than, was Pat, she was in the state office for Indian Affairs. She was doing something with Indian Affairs at one time, remember, in that Office of Indian Affairs? Or you were too young to remember when that was in place in the state?
I've heard about it, but I don't know particularly about Miss.
Okay. Well, she had experience, you know, with some of the programs and how to work it through the state. So I don't know if myself and a couple other people said, you know, it sure would be nice to have a camp for the kids, you know. And I don't know why, but school board never picked up on with helping us with that. They just didn't seem interested. They just wanted to do what they had, and it seems like they just were more interested in still trying to get our children to everybody be one, you know. So they didn't really, they didn't pick up on that. So myself and a few, 3 or 4 other people decided, and with Pat, to, and there was a man that worked with Pat, and I can't remember his name. He was from around Toledo, being that there's an Indian tribe not far from there on the line, state line between Louisiana and Texas. They kind of have a Spanish culture part to their tribe. Gosh, I can't remember his name, but he talked to Pat. He was always interested in having a camp for Indian children. And so he talked to Pat, and then they got started having the ball rolling, and then they talked to us about it. And I was a part of that group anyway. And so we decided to look at what grant we could apply for, and how can we make this work and come about, and it wasn't too hard to do. And the funny thing about these whole programs that I saw come about and helped with, I found that if you make the white man think it's his idea, you have to work in a way where you make them think it's their idea on something that you're going to share with them, or you want them to fund. There's always, where there's a will, there's a way, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And you can always halfway get these things for your people. Anyway, that was one of the things, and I still think about it that way. That's how it came about. We got to talking to the school board and convinced them that we would be responsible for having these kids, the cultural part, the lessons part, the everything. They're going to come out of there learning something. And then we just kind of got them to work with us to approve it, and it wasn't too hard.
Yeah,
and
I
so
remember.
they furnished the buses.
Yeah, I remember the camps.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people involved too.
Yes.
And a lot of people
Goodness,
from
yes.
different cultures too. Like, how did y'all
Cultures.
get all those volunteers?
Each group kind of found their own volunteers for their group, like from the other local state tribes, that took part. They made sure they had good people, and then we got our own people. And so, and the school boards, with all the different groups, they furnished the school buses to take us in, and for transportation, and then we didn't have to worry about that part. And then we had the food and the building, and the we put the activities together and everything. And I have some good pictures and good memories and stuff. Everybody's got good memories of those camps, and I think every kid should go to camp at some point in time. It would be, and you don't hear, I don't hear about that too much anymore. I don't know if they just went to something else because the whole world's changing too.
Yeah.
Ms.
Well,
Corine, every time I hear you talk, Ms. Corine, I'm just like, I'm completely amazed at how much you do.
I know. Yeah. Well,
well,
like I know in 2004, my sisters and I went to like a 3-day weekend camp in Bunkie. I don't know if you remember that, or if you were involved with that.
That was it. Yeah, that too.
Yeah, so we went there, and that's actually the first time that I learned to bead, and I'm still beading today. I learned how to bead there. And I remember we had kids from Zawali there too. They bussed kids in from Zawali.
That's what. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And so we really we really got the different programs to participate in a way that I had never seen before. Really and truly had not like that.
Yeah,
So
that was
it was
different.
so great to bring those kids in and just see all that, you know. And I I was I am so happy that we had that, because for one thing, I never had my own children go to camp with me. And so my grandchildren was coming along, and so they got to take part in these camps. And I was so excited that just for them, I was going to I was going to make sure that camp, do my part in bringing that camp
Yeah,
together.
that's so
And
sweet.
so, you know, so we had a time. So now they have a good memory of, and they think, oh boy, you know, this really sealed the deal of their native part and all this stuff. And like you say, learning to bead, and one little one kind of learn how to make a basket. And you know, in fact, not too long ago, with Miss Janie, we housed a little group. I should say, hosted a little group here of children, not many, I think it was 6, to learn basket making. And it was through a grant that Janie got through the state. And we we thought we would go ahead. She said it would be a good idea to host a little group here. And was I interested in, we thought about going somewhere else, but being it was just several children, I could do it under my carport here. So we went ahead and did that. And about 6 kids, I guess we had about 6 kids. And it's so simple to do. I mean, it's not a whole lot of trouble. You know, the biggest thing to me is the interest. If you can get them to be interested and be inviting enough to where, and really build this thing up, they want to be creative, and they want to take part in these things. And then you give them the history on it of why we're doing this craft, you know. Basket weaving and all that was a part of our people from way back. We give them a little taste of the history, and oh boy, they leave out of here like,
Oh,
you know.
Yeah, I remember that, because
It's
even
fun.
when I was a teenager, you know, boys are sometimes harder to get interested at that age. But that Bonky, like I was talking about, they had the drumming, and then they even had the
Oh yes.
boys practicing throwing the atlatl, and they loved that.
Oh
And
yes.
taking a hike through the trees and learning about the different plants around there, they loved that too. I mean, it wasn't hard to get them interested after that.
That's it. And the arrow, the competition in shooting the bow and arrow.
Yeah.
And just different things that we had there that, oh boy. And so I remember when they first asked me, we started thinking about what we can do for the kids at this camp. I remember one thing saying, well, I'll do anything, but I'm not going to sleep on the ground. Please don't say that we're going to sleep outdoors. I'm not an outdoor person. I never was a good Girl Scout. And anyway, I just was thinking of camping outside, you know, sleeping out on the ground. And I was so nervous about that until we laid out the plans and everything. But nowadays you camp, but it's in a building, you know. Oh boy. But we also did a camp one year over here in Houma at the diocese has facilities in a wooded area back here off of 311, and it's really nice. And so we were able to have our camp there one year too. In fact, one of the last years that we met, I think that's where we were.
What year was that?
Oh gee, see, it was 70, 80, 90, 80, maybe 90s. 90. Yeah, I think it was that was about the last camp we had, maybe in the 90s, sometime at some point there. I don't remember exactly, right off the top of my head. But that that was a good one too. And it it's a good place to have a group of youngster. And of course, for a long time, I don't think we even knew that place existed until we started checking into it and found out that they have these buildings that's what it's for, is for the community here and there to house the youth groups and stuff like that. So that was really nice.
Yeah. So did you have to like go and research these things yourself, or did people come up to you and like, hey, we have this, we heard about your program?
we had to research that pretty much. Nobody really came up to us and say, hey, you got a group of kids here, you might want to, use our facilities and whatever. No, we had to, just look into that ourselves. And I always kept looking for stuff like that before we even had camps and stuff. I just it was always interesting to me to find out, what do people do other than just going to school and all this stuff? Surely there's got to be camps here somewhere. Because I remember growing up with some people that are always interested in doing something with us on the outside, like, well, let's say Girl Scouts and stuff like that. You really, children need that. I think every child should have an opportunity to have the experience of being away and then doing some good thing and learning about their culture. It takes it out of the home, and you learn about it outside of your home, and it makes a difference, because then you get it together in your head who you are, and then it kind of makes you proud to be able to say who you are in a more comfortable way than before. The kids kind of backed off, and some of them, they just, they just thought they weren't going to be accepted as well and stuff like that. But once you get to camp and get fired up and powered in who you are, and your spirit is high with this, oh my goodness, you come out of there and you just can, you can handle whatever comes your way.
Were there programs like that during the school year too, like an after school program or other things where outside of school there was time that they could do those same kinds of activities, or was that mostly in the summer during camp?
It was mostly during summer with camp, with our program. But you know what? I believe that Louise and them started offering drumming. What is it that she and Lorianne did? They had a group going. It was a dance group they put together to teach them the dances. And they also, they would meet at the Dulac Community Center. And oh my goodness, they would have, I don't know, a whole bunch. That building was full of kids, young kids, teenagers, junior high, kind of age group. And they would, and I think Brenda's boys at that time participated in teaching drumming. And then they taught the dances. And then she and a couple other ladies started teaching them how to make their own dance outfit, regalia. They had a big class of to work on regalias.
And this was all at the community center?
Yes, that was in Dulac. So that was really something that the children will remember forever. And we run across adults now, young adults now, and they'll say, I still have my regalia in the closet, and stuff. And speaking of that, I still have my granddaughter's regalia in my closet over here. So it's, and like my little grandson from Baton Rouge, he had never, I mean, he doesn't even, what if you go by the looks, he just does not look like an ounce of our culture, you know. But I taught him, I invited him to participate in some of the activities we had. And do you know, he was so good at dancing. And so I introduced him to the outfit he had to wear and the regalia and stuff. And then I invited him to participate in the dancing at the powwows. And now he has that as memory of something he enjoyed doing deep down inside. He didn't show his feelings very much, but I knew down deep inside, I found that he's so proud of that nobody else of his friends, he's the only one that really has this, you know, and him that he knows he can dance and drum a little bit, you know, and stuff like that. And he has that in him, and he just feels so good about himself in regards to that. So, you know, I wish it was still going on, but you got to have the person that knows how to do that in a respectable way, and knows how to work with children and interested in wanting to do it. See, we just wanted to help our students, the ones that took part in all of it. But then the next generation, it seems like the young adults are not picking up on that to learn themselves, if they don't know, to teach the generation coming up. So we're it seems like our Indianness goes up in a point, comes down one generation, then it might come back up, and then it just goes, it's like peaks up and down, you know. To me, that's the way I see it.
Our self-identifying. I know when I was in the camps, like you said, I had so much pride in what we had learned. We would come home. My grandmother lived with us because my mother died when I was young, so she helped raise us. And I would tell her all the things that we knew and that she didn't know, because you know, just whenever she was growing up, they didn't have that much information, and it wasn't a good thing to be Indian. But
exactly.
like, I'm curious what you learned in your home. You said, you know, not a lot of people these days learn what it is to be an Indian or Homa in their home. Did you have any prior education in that, or did you have to like get up, you know, out of your home and like meet with certain people, like meet with other people in your tribe, or was y'all
my
just
mother
like my
never
grandma?
did let me. My mother never let me forget who I was. She always pounded the word Indian in me. I knew from get-go that I was very Indian, and of course I looked it. I was just more, you know, but I think I had a scared feeling in my neighborhood. We always had a little scare in us about just being proud. We couldn't be proud. We had to be careful who we hung around with and who we said it to. And just, we weren't comfortable. We knew who we were, and we loved our people, but we couldn't be free to express our Indianness in the way that we should have been able to. It's really, when I think about it today, it's hard to wrap around my head, because today everything is so open and everybody's so accepted, and they just see you as who you are, and if you want to be this person, or this is who you are, it's more accepted. And with us, we had to be careful, because they made our lives miserable if they decided to just throw rocks at us from walking on the side of the road where, you know, the white person may have had it. Like, I remember a grocery store, we had to pass in front of one grocery store, walk in front of one grocery store to go across the bayou to the other one where we would be accepted to go in. and the people at the first grocery store would throw rocks at us and say, "Get back to your side of the road," or "You go back to your place over there," and stuff like that. You never forget those things, you know.
Yeah. It was like my grandmother. She didn't want to teach us French
You
because
don't
when
say.
she was in school, she
Uh-huh.
got punished and would be
Yeah.
spanked for speaking French. She's proud of us for knowing our Indian heritage, but I'm
Yeah.
like, it's still in the back of her mind. You're like, we can't do that, you know.
Exactly. Be careful. You always have this. Be careful, you know. And to this day, I think I have that in me. Like when I approach a person, a non-Indian person, I don't know them, they're a total stranger to me, and I have to acknowledge my Indianness if they don't already notice it. It's approach with caution. It's like I have to be cautious about how I get into the conversation, or I get, you know, with this person. It's still there. The old, it's what's the word I use? It's I don't want to use the word scary, but it's you don't know this person, and you don't know how they're receiving you always with the white man.
Yeah.
You know, and so even with African American, not that they ever mistreated us in any way, but there's something about the outsiders from our people that we older ones still remember not being accepted, and it goes so deep into your soul that you have a guard all the time to think, will I be good enough? Will I be accepted? And stuff like that. And I know when I went away to that school, that was in the back of my mind, and I was kind of scared way down deep inside to see how they would receive me when I'd step off that bus, and I didn't say anything. I followed through with how they were addressing me and accepting me or receiving me. It's just there, and you just can't get away from it. I can't. I mean, you know, a lot of the older people, they still talk about it, how they feel and how it was and how different it is now. It's really something. But
yeah, I can kind of feel that too. Like I don't know, just in talking with people and in contacting people for the project and stuff. That's something, that feeling is something we run against a lot. And I feel like sometimes I feel that feeling, but it's weird because I don't have these like exact memories that you do of anything transpiring against me, but it's just like this learned thing.
You're kind of muffed a little bit.
Yeah, I can't hear you very well, Haley.
Okay, now that sounds good.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Thank you. But yeah, no, I was just thinking about like the, you know, that caution and like how I kind of feel that sometimes, but I don't have any like direct memories of why, as much as it's just like a learned thing that, you know, parents and grandparents like, be careful. And it was just like, why are you careful? But then like, the more you talk to people, it's like, this is why we're so careful. That's interesting.
Yes. When they say careful to us, it's different than the all-American careful that somebody just says, meaning some tree might fall in front of you, or somebody is, you know, you might be walking in the path of something dangerous, you know, whatever. They're meaning careful with the people we meet, whether they're going to accept us or not. It's that old thing, you know, and it's still there that, you know, just be careful, you know. It takes on a different meaning for some of us.
Well, Miss Corine, you're very optimistic, and you've shared a lot of the moments that were really exciting about being in Indian education and all the things you were able to accomplish. And I'm sure along the way you encountered some frustrations or some challenges. And I'm just curious to know, was there any resistance from schools and educators as you kind of piloted this program and created a space for people to feel proud about their sense of Native identity? Were there any challenges that you faced as you were doing that work?
On the different jobs I've held through the years, there's been some things that, I'll always have in my mind that took place that was so uncomfortable and stuff. Now, the school board, it wasn't too bad. They seemed to be okay. And then when Kirby came, though, to have another person side by side with me to work in this program, I think it helped, because if I was going to be alone in this program to work with them, and they called the shot because they were, but when Kirby came in and we were able to communicate better what our people needs were, and we couldn't let them just do anything, we had to speak out and be strong. That was so much better. So that was the challenge there that we had to really work with. But my other jobs, of course, my very first job was Duthu Community Center and part-time secretary, part-time kindergarten teacher. And I didn't have any challenges there. I was home, and the missionaries worked with us as people from the community there, and how, to meet us. And it was just home, But then my next first job was Grand Isle. Do you know where Grand Isle is?
Yes.
Okay, you know where Grand Isle. Well, my husband was in the service, and he was going to move there. By that time, we had just married, and he was in the Coast Guard, and he moved up there. He was going to be stationed there, and we were there 2 years. And it wasn't bad. The place itself, the beach and everything, that wasn't bad. And then the Coast Guard people from elsewhere that were stationed there, that wasn't bad. But I found there was the community of people that was on that island. Some of them were Indian, and you could tell they did not want to acknowledge that they were Indian. For instance, somebody told me that when I first moved there, and I went into the post office, I can recall the women were standing in line to get to the counter, and they were talking away in French. Well, I speak French all the time. So when I walked in there, I guess my eyes popped open, and I was happy to hear them speak French, but all the time. But they didn't say hello to me. They kept their distance. And you already get that feeling. I was used to it, so, you don't break in there. But anyway, I found out, I thought all the time that they were Spanish speaking, people from a distance. I would see them, but I thought they were Hispanic or something. So I never really knew that they were Indian on the island until that day when I heard them speaking. I knew it was our French, And then, so I got hired, what they called the Grand Isle Town Hall back then. It was the waterworks as a clerk. I had to have a little job, and so I got a job there. And I had a small child, and I needed a babysitter. So one of the girls that worked in the office there, she encouraged me to, she let me know that her mom liked to babysit. She would babysit for people. So she said, does your mom, would you like my mom to babysit for you? You want to talk to her? And I said, sure, and this girl looked like she might be Indian to me. And so when I met her mom, I knew these people I was pretty sure they were Indian, but then again, their English was, real good, and they didn't speak French around me, that particular family, and they looked Hispanic. They could have, been Hispanic. So I didn't want to rush into the background with them about who they were. So for a long time, and come to find out, years passed after we moved away from there and everything, and we had a powwow on Grand Isle some years later after I moved over here. My children are grown and all, and I went down there and met some of the people that's always lived on the island, and they were telling me they were Houma Indian. And I thought that was so incredible that all this time these were my people, and it was really interesting. But I stayed 2 years down there. Can you believe? And then we moved to Alabama, and I worked for a construction company. Well, first I worked for. I was looking for a job and couldn't find anything right off. And then somebody told me there was a factory in. I want to say, I can't even remember. I want to say Union, Alabama. You know where they talk about Martin Luther King coming across the bridge?
Yeah.
It wasn't far from that. And there was a merchant, or whatever you might call it, that they made house coats like for JCPenney and Sears, robes and such. And you had to trim. My job was to cut up the pattern of a robe or whatever. I don't remember, just stuff like that. But it was a job. And I remember there were more in that community, that little town. It was predominantly African American. And I would get a ride with somebody else that was from the town of Demopolis, Alabama. And I worked there a while, and nobody really challenged me in regards to age or, race or anything. And then I got a little bit better job as a secretary for a construction company. And they just seemed like I just worked like everybody else, and nobody said anything.
So when you worked in Grand Isle, was that when you were part of Indian education too, or was that before?
No, that was before.
That was before.
That was way before.
How old was your child at that time?
How old was what?
You say you had one child by then when you lived in Grand Isle?
Yes, he was about 2.
About 2, okay.
Yeah. And then in Alabama, then I had my second child when we lived in Alabama, and just on and on until we came back to. My husband retired, and we came back to, or he went overseas before he retired, and I came back to Houma to live. And I worked at Terrebonne General for 5 years, and that's where my challenges came about. I didn't have any challenges I didn't find before with jobs, but then when I got to Terrebonne General, what happened is I was just coming out of town, out of the state, and the supervisor that hired me, there was no Indians working there except for 2 young ladies from the Montague area, and they worked as nurses' aide upstairs.
Yeah.
And they needed a worker in outpatient and admit office, something like admit office. And they needed, so the guy, the supervisor, he grew up in New Orleans, and because every time he hired somebody, they said we had to know how to spell Chapatula. So, and he was such a jolly, nice person, and I thought the world of this person. I really liked this man. Well, when he hired me, he was taking an older lady. I would have been taking an older white lady's job, and he said she just wasn't coming up through she wasn't doing the job right, and he needed a younger person. So he hired me, and boy, everybody, that's when I really knew I was home. The other white people around me, just, that was their friend, you know, this lady. And here I was, and they knew who I was. I was taking this white person's place. Well, but still, they were nice to me. They were civil to me, and I didn't know that they were feeling that way about me. So I was you know, trying to be friendly and nice and all that stuff. Well, this went on. I was okay with that. And the thing is, I found out I was the first person to work in a front office at Terrebonne General, as far as being not a white person, you know. And so, and I did not know that at that time. And then I'd see these two girls from down by, they had to walk past my office to go upstairs. And I smiled at them and everything, but they never would say hello or talk to me and everything. They just kind of kept to themselves and just went upstairs and did their job and just wouldn't talk to me. So I didn't let that bother me. I was just happy where I was with my job and all. The only thing is, one day I had to work part-time in the outpatient department. And I had made a young friend, and she was here from Kentucky, I believe. And she and her husband didn't have any children. They're just young, and they, like, she would have lunch with me. We were good buddies, and she would take my little children when I had to work Mardi Gras time. They would babysit and take the kids to the parade with them, and on until one day she come running out from, there was a big red-headed white lady that worked the emergency room. Just, I think she was a clerk in there. Her name was Mary. And this girl, my friend, came running back from the emergency room. She said, Corine, you wouldn't believe this lady is saying that you're a Sabine, that you're not anything but a Sabine. And to her, it sounded like that was the worst thing on this whole earth. And I had never heard somebody just, their feelings come out so strong that way. And it wasn't that she was being ugly. She just thought that was the worst thing you could ever be. But yet, so she came here knowing the Indian people. She was told by these Cajun friends, we were all Sabines. So she was, and I was so shocked that she did it the way she did. And I don't remember saying anything. I just kind of looked at her and I said, you know, I just let her, and then she just kind of like separated herself from me, like I was completely bad news, you know, just
Oh my God, that's
didn't,
terrible.
I mean, it was like horrible. So I decided to go to my supervisor that I like so much, and I thought he is the man that he's gonna call. I thought he would call them in the office with me, and we can talk about this. I don't know where my mind was that day, thinking somebody's just gonna be that nice and just gonna. So I went to him, and he had me sit in front of his desk, and I remember he had 7 children, and I saw behind his head on the wall were the 7 children, you know, and I thought, whoa, you know, he's like our people. And he said, he asked me what the problem was or what is it that I needed to see him about, and I proceeded to tell him. And he said, he didn't say anything. He was quiet for a while. Then he said, well, let me ask you this. Do you plan to make this your home? You're going to stay here? And I said, well, yes, this is my home. We're here to stay, you know. He said, well, you're just going to have to get used to it. I was so shocked that this man that I thought so much of, this was the answer he was giving me. I was just floored. So I didn't know how to handle it really once he said that. Mm-hmm. So I left very disheartened, and I went on working, but I kept thinking, you know what? I need to move away from here. I have to get out of this job. Mm-hmm. So And that wasn't all. Years later, I ran into one of the older ladies that used to work there at the same time I did, and she always was nice to me, gray-haired little lady. She said, Corine, I've been wanting to tell you this for a long time. She said, do you know that Mr. Villarubia, the supervisor, when he hired you, he told us you were from Guam. And I said, see, my husband went to Guam and to another island there, and so he told them, and she said, and we all knew where you were from. And he really had started, the man that I thought was so great, here again,
He started the problem.
disappointed me. Yeah, he started the problem. So we just laughed about it a little bit. But
did you have to deal with that in school boards too? Like when you worked with the
yeah. Well, I left this. I was looking for better hours, so that's when I said that I drove up to the school board and said, "Oh, I'm not going to go there because I've already been there and they didn't look at me." Gave me the time of day, and then this is when I went to the school board and applied for the job, and it came through, because they had that grant. So when I was there, everybody, well, they knew they have to, I think the school board had no choice because they're to treat everybody decent or halfway decent, because they worked with all these Indian children anyway. So you just can't keep working with Indian children and not show some kind of decency, you know what I mean, towards people.
Yeah.
So I figured, so that, that was good. But I know that so this man that was the supervisor, his wife got killed and he became a priest. He was very Catholic and he became a priest. And every time I'd see him, it's like, do I approach him and just wake this thing up? I needed to talk to him. I felt like, I wonder if he would talk to me. I needed to know this man, what was going through his mind. Was he scared? Why did he lie? Why did he do this to me? Because I lived miserable after that, thinking about that, whether people were really, they may not accept me. After that, it was kind of in the back of my mind, all the time. So I saw him at here and there, but we looked at each other, but we didn't approach each other. Like we'd run into each other in the post office or something. Well, some time ago, we had a funeral for one of my friends, and he was the priest, and I came face to face with him, and Janie was with me, and I had told Janie the story, and I asked him if he remembered me, and he said, Corine, he didn't seem to remember. Now he's older now, and so I said okay, and I just wanted to say something, but that it wasn't appropriate to say it right there or to start, anything. And I could tell he must not either remember, and because he's much older now, or he might be telling the truth that he didn't remember me, or he's not going to remember me just by will to say, So I just let it go. But to this day, it's like, I wish I could sit down with that man now and talk. He's working, he's a priest now. He should be able to talk to me even better. But I just left it alone. But it has to do with being accepted and just kind of trust. It's still there. It's going to be with me the rest of my life, I guess. Yeah. But then, so anyway, just different things. And then too, even in church, I've had pastors make a difference to, I don't know, just hinting things like I don't do things as good as somebody else because of who I am. You could tell he was, and I know that one of the older men in church, and I dearly love my church, he asked this particular minister if he was a racist. And the minister, this is not too many years ago, maybe 5, 5 years ago, 6 years
Mhm.
ago, and the minister was saying that to our congregation, and he says, I'm not going to name anybody, but somebody in this congregation asked me if I was a racist, and he says, well, I can't help it if the way I was raised, and and that told you more than you wanted to know. So I thought, yeah, because of the way he addressed me, and we had, I was on a committee with the church to go after Katrina to help, with whatever we can do for the poor people in the community. And so somehow, I don't know how we chose, what is John Charles?
Mhm.
So we decided to go and do something and we were looking for the chief to have him assign us to a house. And we came up to this house, before we got to the chief's house, we came up to this little house on the side of the bayou where this little family lived. I didn't know it personally. I know it, all the people down there are Indians, but I didn't know this particular family. So anyway, we pulled up there. It was a minister, myself, and two ladies. And we came up to the door and nobody came right away. And in the yard, it was just strewed with beer cans. And this man come out on the porch and we asked him about where the chief lived and stuff. And he chit-chatting all. Well, everybody, got back in the car to go find where the chief lived. And as we were getting in the car, one of the ladies, she was the head of our women's group. She says, I can't believe this. She says, now on this paper that we have before we even take off to go visit somebody, one of the guidelines or rules, it says, you're not there to judge anybody. This is not about you. This is about doing something to help somebody. So do not be thinking of going on this trip with and having judgment in mind. It's not going to work. Something to that effect. So anyway, as soon as we get in the car, she says, I can't believe it. You can be poor, but you don't have to be dirty, and blah, blah, blah. And she went on and on. I never said a word. We kept going. And then we did talk to the chief, and we made arrangement for something to come back and whatever. Well, do you know that they never went back? And I think that minister, he hated to have to do anything for us or anybody that was not white. I just got it clear. I felt it. And so, and with that lady saying what she did, it didn't help matters. So I felt the brunt in this day and age, still the old prejudice,
Miss Corine, I
So,
think you've been through a lot more than anybody should ever have to take. And I know these wounds don't just heal overnight. You've experienced a lot of trauma. And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that and thank you for bringing all this up, because I know it's probably not easy to talk about. So thank you. And I'm curious to know if we can kind of swing back around to Indian education. I just want to hear from you what your proudest contribution to the program is. What makes you excited,
okay.
proud, and happy to think about when you look back on those years and what you were able to accomplish?
Okay. I think the best thing that ever happened to Terrebonne Parish school system at the time it did was Indian education. I don't know how they went about this is the whole country came into Indian education. And for this area, the area that I'm familiar with, it was the best thing because it's still going on now. And there are the programs is growing. It's always done so well with their reports on how the kids are advancing because of Indian education. And that, to me, is where we wanted to go. We wanted to know that these children are being addressed with the program and subjects and to where it's going to show that we're at the same level with the rest of the rest of the cultures or the other children, that they can compete with anybody, and they're way up there, coming along, and it's one of the biggest thing it's doing. It's keeping them going through school. You just don't stop at high school. Now we have so many people going into to college, more than we've ever seen. The numbers are really, really high. It's, you don't talk about, one time when I was in school, it was the 8th grade. That was the top. And boy, when we get to the 8th grade, that was really something. We'd even have a celebration and all this stuff, because the school, we had to stop there. But then high school started, and for a few years, there was a lot of dropout problems, really. A big adjustment had to be made.
Mm-hmm.
But then people like Kirby came in, and people that they started putting in to visit into the home, but now they don't even have to do that any longer. The kids have picked up now the whole school system all over are so much better. So now we don't have to worry about our kids. Those that are taking the grades, and the system is different in teaching them how they're going to use college and all that stuff. The emphasis is on college now for everybody. So therefore, our children, every day, every time I open the paper, or every time I hear of the United Home Nation and their people, the college, the ones that are applying for scholarship and everything, I mean, the line is, the numbers are going up. It's so good, and that's the payoff. It's to see all these big numbers into the colleges now that stem from Indian education.
Yeah.
And
So, because I know when I was in school, like it was the first time that we ever had major scholarship funding, because it was in the late 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. And I know, even with the camps, sometimes we would find different ways to connect with people, not just for colleges, but like for trade schools and stuff. And like, especially with all the different tribes coming into the camps and stuff like that in different parishes. And even if he didn't get those scholarships, he still made connections for like jobs and things like that. Like, do you still have?
And I think intertribal council.
Yeah.
Huh?
Like, do you still have connections with the people that helped out, like the different tribes and stuff? Like, is that still available to you to help with Indian education?
The organization LAEA is still there, but there's no activities, no meetings or anything. I think it's been about 3 years maybe since our last meeting. I don't know, it's in Pat's hand, and I was the treasurer, but there's just nothing there anymore. The last time we met, though, I wanted to see some new people in there instead of, say, just family members being part of the committee. So that's good and not good. So I decided to pick out a couple of people, of my people on this end, that could sit on that committee. So I chose a young man, Fusel. He's on the council today now. Yeah. Oh, what's his first name?
I can't remember.
Golly. Anyway, his last name's Fusel, and he's a law student right now. So I thought, we need to get him on here. Well, he came, he made our first meeting, but after that, there were no other meetings. And I understand later, then Pat's husband got ill and one thing and another, So we never had another meeting. So the other new person that I thought should sit on this was, I believe, my friend Annie is going to be a new member on there. But and she's from Dulac, and she graduated from Deckville or attended Deckville School. Let's see. But then again, if we could just get back on track with that, I think that would be good, because one of the things we could still do a lot with that particular program if we could get on it, because it had the, you know, it supports the license plate, you know, the scholarship through the license plate.
Oh yeah, I remember my dad got one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I have one on my car, and you know, if the student family, somebody in the family has a license plate for the students that's applying for the scholarship, it gives them a few extra points.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff to encourage, you know, the support of it.
Yeah.
And but anyway, and so we haven't really advertised. The scholarship was advertised at the powwow. Usually we set up a booth, and I tried to be the one to set up the booth and try to keep it going, you know. And so we, the last time we had a powwow on the air base is when I had a booth for the scholarship for license plate support.
Yeah.
And I just see so much different movement. Like you girls, when you came into the picture and doing what you're doing, I just thought, this is it. We're on our way.
Yeah.
You know, I get so excited because we're getting groups from within our groups now, instead of just having to depend on somebody else that really doesn't know a whole lot. And just, I mean, people are just coming up with their own, how they can help their people and tribe and so on. And I get so excited.
Yeah.
And it's bringing people that I never thought I was going to get to meet into the picture, like our little ladies here. I just never thought, you know, I was going to get to meet you guys and really see, you know, I just thought, gee whiz, this is for real, and this is good, and I get excited.
It's a real special treasure for us too.
So I think that, and you know, I was just talking to a friend of mine. I wish somebody would really take on the veterans. This is my first love. The veterans is, oh my gosh. And we have a girl that's a veteran right now, and she, one of our people, and she was telling me she has a sister that's practicing law in Florida. We have so many people out there that are doing great things, and I know that I like to keep up with them. I like to know who's who out there, you know, of our people. So I always kind of try to nosy around and keep a list and this, that, and the other. But the veterans is really my thing.
Do you think that's something that Indian education can work with? Because I know a lot of older people still need like computer literacy, and some of them still need help reading or writing. And I mean, it's a lot less now.
I wish that they would have one person to just check with the elders, you know, as to their needs. And because when people have a way of looking at elders, they seem to think we just sit around the house and they want to make sure we have good food and stuff like that. But we need somebody to maybe be in touch with us to say, are you all right? Or just drop in, because sometimes we can always say, I'm all right, I'm good. And we might be lonely and just need somebody. I love people to just drop in. I didn't used to be this way. I was more private and didn't, you know, but as time went on, I decided, you know what? I'm going to keep notes of myself as I'm going through each generation of time. And I want to see how my aging is working out. So my grandchildren can get over this. I keep track of myself, how I'm changing and what my body's telling me and what I'm saying to other people, or how I'm dealing with other people, I should say.
It's like
And
journaling.
this way, yeah, I know kind of what to expect, and I read good things to help me with getting through each day. Because you have to, I decided, I settled on my spirit. I'm going to work with my spirit, because my spirit is my whole body. If I can work with my spirit, I'm good. Because you stay positive, you stay happy, and you can deal better with things when it does get kind of sad or bad, because your spirit carries you. So I, even if I have to talk to myself, I leave my door open. I always tell people, you can drop in here. I'm always here, especially at these times. But there's a lot of older people, my age or older, I find, that are lonely, and they don't have people that checks on them as much. They'll spend all day sitting in the rocking chair. Or I used to sit after I retired and everything. Every once in a while, I'd still take on a little part-time job. And one of them was sitting with the elders. And I really picked up on how they're so alone, a lot of them. And I thought, gee whiz, and like sometimes some of them could, if somebody would come in and just say, what can I do to help you in the house? Meaning maybe just dust. Dusting is something crazy that just regular people don't like. But the poor old people, they're around their bedroom, they have dust that they can't, they just forget. Your memory is not there to dust every once in a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not a criticism. It's just saying that's a little something. And I tell my grandchildren that, just check in here and make sure that I have that I'm dust. There's no dust around too much, because I don't like to sleep around dust.
Yeah.
And I said, especially my bedroom. And I don't see very well anymore, so I don't sometimes see dust. So just stuff like that. I just feel like,
Indian education would be able to do something like that, where they bring in children or like teenagers, or even people in vocational jobs that are trying to be like aides, nurse aides. They can come into the home of these Indian elders and help them, or even just have like classes where we have like a mentoring elders and the younger generation. Like, how do you think we can make the program better? Do you have any ideas for that?
The one thing that I would like to see people do, whether it's with youth or other people, I think that one of the programs, instead of Indian education, Intertribal Council always has young people on part-time jobs or something. I think they could do something. I don't know how Indian education could do it, but I know that anybody that works with youth, so let's put it this way, one of the things that they could do is teach them how to, how can I say this, how to deal, when an older person starts not remembering, and they're maybe in the beginning of dementia, and we don't know it. It might be just the beginning, to where nobody knows it, but you can see and they're argumentative, or else then extra quiet, or doesn't do things just quite right.
Yeah.
These young people need to learn about that, what to expect, because I noticed that young people that have an elder in their family, they get so frustrated and have no patience. And that person, doesn't know that they're being so much trouble. So therefore, they have to learn that, like for instance, I was helping going to Illinois on the train about every other month, I guess, to be with my older sister, my older living sister. And I could see where she was. And so I forgot myself. And one day, like for instance, she was talking and I said, "No, Joe, don't you remember?" Well, then after a moment, it hit me. She won't remember. This is what I'm here for. So I needed to take that back and do something. I need to straighten that out. I said, of course she doesn't remember. That's what I'm here for, is to help her, because she can't remember. I'm the one with the problem, not her, because I should know she can't remember. But I had said that. I said, "No, Joe, don't you remember?" I was trying to get her to grasp something that we had talked about, and it was like repeating it like for the third, the fourth time. And that's the worry I have, is that my grandchildren's gonna get frustrated because they have to repeat to me 3 or 4 times, something. And or my hearing is not as clear as it used to be, and they having to repeat. And that goes through my mind more than anything else.
I think
But
the idea that Brittany's brought up is really important, between bridging the 2 generations together.
yeah,
And that's a different way of looking at the purpose of Indian education and the different ways that it can help unite the community. I wonder, in kind of
right.
broadening our scope and talking about Indian education in general, are there any hopes that you have for what Indian education will look like in the generations to come? What would you want, for example, for your great-grandchildren to have access to? What resources would you like them to have?
I think that I would like to see Indian education, first of all, right now, be in all the schools. They should have somebody in all the schools, because our people are in all the schools. I don't care if it's just 10 people. I would like first to see Indian education in all the schools. And then from there, they can probably have the connection made with the community, or with their community, in coming in and understanding their elders, their people. They need to know their history, and from history, then they need to know who, where, about their own families, and then, be able to say, have, how would the school do that? I know they like to have something, and they invite the elders sometimes, like maybe at Christmas time they have concerts and things. That's different.
Or like the elders'
But they need to have something, from what, if they could study the elders, have a like in the back of the book that tells all about our people. Well, they could also put about our older people, our elders, what they used to believe, or how they used to live off the land and stuff like that, and name go from the plants to the food to the everything, and then come on down to the present and talk about how important it is that we are being in touch with our elders, not to just walk away from them, to just come back and talk to them and visit with them, and maybe have a time where we have to a discussion or something about our elders, and that way they learn to be what to expect from the elder, and then to be patient and how to approach them, and how to, maybe how the need, they really have a need, to have the company of somebody, the presence of somebody. Some of them don't even know you're there if they have dementia or something. But I think, to me, just the warmth of being near a person, And so in working with Indian education, this one booklet that could be put into the school, which it never was, and it was a booklet that we had put together, myself and Kirby and Diane Boudreau, this lady that was really good at putting stuff like that together. It gives you first the history of the home on a student's level. Then after you read the whole chapter on the basic of your history, then it asks you questions or choices, to check off about something.
Kind of like
and
a little
then like what?
like a little quiz or test about what
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, from what they read. And then it has some suggestions about where they could go for, say, palmetto or stuff like Janie works and gorefish, the story of the gorefish or whatever is out there that they would want to learn about. And then it tells about all the schools, maybe make them aware of the schools that have the Indian education program, and then get into the families as to where the population is more here, more there in the different areas. And then too, the person that's running the program, if they could make it a point to have a field trip, and they would assign 3 or 4 people, not too many at one time, to go visit one elder. And if they can talk and recall some things, to have them talk to these young people, or, something, there's got to be a closer connection that in Indian education or any group could possibly work in, like in a tribal council or somebody that's working with a group of young people.
Miss Corine, do you know if that booklet still exists? If Kirby has a copy, maybe, or do you have a copy of it?
I have a copy. I have let my niece, that's a school teacher. She was trying to put a program together for her school. She's in a private school, but she was going to try to put it together. But I know she hadn't done anything with it after she used it, so I need to get it back. And yeah, I can. You need to look at this book. It's really something. But
Yeah,
you could add to it
it.
probably, or take away some things. But it's well done. It's kind of simple on the way that anybody can understand it. It's gonna.
Yeah.
It's and so and it. We could add in that book the tribe's flag, the colors, what each color of the flag means, and the different other tribes in the state, that are state recognized.
Yeah. Do you think your niece would be just, it sounds like if she's a teacher, maybe she has a digital copy. Do you think she'd be able to send it to us?
Sure, I can ask her to do that.
That would be awesome.
Okay.
That seems like a wonderful starting point for stuff that I know that.
Yeah, you have got to look at this book.
That seems up our
I
alley.
think it'll. So I think you really need to. I would love to see you look at this book. There's so many things that wasn't, like, for instance, we put that book together and we had hoped, we ran, I don't know how many copies, and we had hoped to put it in the classrooms where there was the Indian program, and they never made it they never was interested in putting it in the classroom. I don't know why. It was just each year went by and nothing. And so I decided I'm going to keep a copy, and we'll just, we can use it with the tribe or some other program maybe one day, which I never really had the tribe to have a youth group to study our tribe. And that was one of the things I used to go before the board all the time and say, you have got to get your history class together, a history class together. We had one many years ago, I want to say the 80s, maybe. Kirby and I, we would think up things and decide to do it and put it out there and try it. We had a evening at the Dulac Community Center and one evening at one of the libraries here in Houma. And we had more non-Indians to come to the class than we had the Indian community. And, but it was interesting. We had a map out there, some maps out there, and Kirby was real good with the history back then. I don't know about now. He's getting older too. And he, talked about the different, as much as he could on the history. And then I would do something else. I can't remember what my part was. But anyway, between the two of us, we did. But we had people from Houma that weren't of tribal member that really was interested in. They signed up for it. I mean, they really were interested in it. And
well, Miss Corine, I just wanted to let you know that I'm 32 years old now, and I went to the camps at Worley and Butler, and even the one in Bunkie in 2004. Like that helped me a lot. Like all your perseverance, you and Kirby and the other ones in Indian education. Like me personally and my sisters, we still talk about that. Those were like the best times of our life,
Oh,
and
yes.
I want to thank you so much for having these things for us, because we didn't have the best of life either, and we were poor. And I even remember being in 7th grade doing Louisiana history. Our history is Louisiana history, especially in the naming of Baton Rouge.
That's right. That's right.
The teacher told me that our tribe was extinct. I'm like, no, hello, I'm right here, And if I wouldn't have had y'all in Indian education bringing me to these places in Jefferson Parish, having the kids in Jefferson Parish where I grew up being able to do this, then that's the only education I would have known about our people. So I really want to thank you for being so persistent in that.
I want to ask something of you. I would like you, Pat is supposed to be working, she had told me she's working with the state to try to get their attention. I guess Bessie Board would be the one, or whoever it is. I didn't hear her say Bessie Board, but just to say, we have to get our history, a better history, into the textbook than we have now. We might have one paragraph or one or two here and there. And I think if we could get, a better history in the Louisiana history book, it would be so much better for our student, or pay off, in the long run. But we need some support from the communities to write the governor or write the Bessie Board or somebody, because you know what? The African Americans are way ahead on this thing. We're last on the totem pole. They're really getting what they need right now. And this is the time for us to ask for these things. And I really believe that the tribe doesn't seem to be addressing education. I have been after them, and you can ask the chief himself. I have been asked every meeting. I tried to be there. I'm the only elder person that attends these meetings. And I keep telling him that you have to put an education committee in place, because if you don't, you're going to lose out, because that can control a lot of things. We can have somebody that is going to address the school board with this, the government council, so many things. That for everything, you need that education committee.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's what kind of holds us back as a tribe too, because not a lot of people realize that they could just get up and do it like you and Kirby did.
Right.
And then even Haley and Colleen is starting the Home Language Project. No one realized that they
Right.
could just get up and do this themselves. They didn't have to wait for permission.
Exactly.
And that's part of the lack of
Exactly.
education in our community. This was like a concerted effort of people that wanted to be against us, like give them
Uh-huh.
lack of education and they don't know what to do.
Right. And I think that this is very, very important. So Janie is working with the parish here to get back, because our tribe never was really working with our tribe to try to get them to do the things that needs to be done in regards to like Indigenous Day. We need to have our flag out there, or the rest of the flags. We need to have our statues the plaques all where they should be. We need our stories. We need to be, how do you say it, more out there. What do you call it?
Representation.
Yes, and the like Southdown Museum has our native room there.
Mhm.
They need to have that every time. I know it's a private museum, but every time they send out their pamphlets, they don't say anything about the native room. And the native room is the only one that got them a recognition plaque.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And so, but they're focusing on their Mardi Gras room and their history of their Cajun, the plantations and all that. But this is the room everybody comes to see, and they're not they don't even keep track of how many people goes through there to say just the Indian room.
So we
And
have
these are the things.
representation of like what we used to be, but we don't have like current representation. And I think Indian education
No,
helps with
that's
that.
always been poor.
Yeah, Indian education can help
Yeah.
with that current representation, and it still does in some
Yes.
way.
Yes. And right now, my granddaughter went the other day, and she said nothing, no, hardly anything. They just read off the grant, and then there's just no parent participation. She said it's really something. She's disgusted. And
So it's still
so
really
anyway, that has, in each parish, if they're receiving funds from the federal government, they need a good support of parents. That's really, they have to sign off on it. So there you go. But it could, we don't want it to die out and go away,
Mm-hmm.
It has to be up there. Everybody else is way ahead of us.
Yeah. So it sounds like it could just use a really good update, because I know parents can sign their kids like on the forms when they do schools, like they can say that their kids are native, but I guess just the Indian education itself won't go and look at those forms and see and it's just for kids that are like state recognized, not just, any native.
Right.
It has to have all kinds of qualifications met.
Right.
Yeah. And I think like most of our tribe, about half of our tribe is not even on the rolls either because of problems with enrollment. So that even hinders our people even more. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, I can hardly wait if this virus thing can clear up and the girls can go on with their plans for the gathering.
Oh yeah.
I think I can hardly wait.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to the day where we can do that.
Yeah, we need to get on the outside and get our people out there in the sunshine and everything, and the stories and the food and the rocking chair and everything.
Well, I mean, this is kind of a sort of gathering too. I feel like thank you so much, Ms. Corine, for coming on and doing this. I feel like getting people on Zoom. We reached out. A student, Casey at Nichols, reached out to me the other day looking to like start to write a story and didn't know where to start. But getting more elders to get on these digital platforms, it makes it so much easier. Like I'm just going to be able to send her information and tell her, hey, you really need to look into Indian education if you're looking for a story. But like having elders getting online, like that really helps. Like that, what you were saying about elder visits and stuff. If an elder can hop on a Zoom call, they can be in a classroom. They can be in multiple classrooms at the same time. That makes such a difference. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So,
You know,
I mean, the
Tyler DePlantis,
yeah,
well, he's working with Nichols to put a group together, I think, to
Oh yeah, the
do
math
something like that.
class. Yeah. Yeah, we've been in contact. I think we're
yeah,
gonna
they
Okay.
might.
He's so,
Did you
I like him.
Did
yeah.
you talk to? Has he talked to you yet? Because he's probably going to interview
He
you.
came over here yesterday, a couple of days ago. He and somebody else came with him. Who came with him? Gee, I can't remember who came with him, but he came here. They were looking at this thing about the Degville school. That's,
Daleville, yeah.
you know,
Digville, yeah.
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 So they, I have so many newspaper articles and stuff, and I
Yeah.
have the records of when they first went to court, when the home people had to go to court because of education, long
Mhm.
time ago,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that was a suit, you know,
But Henry
and
Bourgeois.
all of that stuff. They
Yeah.
looking for some back materials and stuff, and I was able to help a little bit.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
I keep everything. But now that they have a place to store for storage, they can take all this material that I have and store it. I mean,
Oh,
I
like
don't have to worry.
new
They've got a
travel
place.
center.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
all
Ms.
this-
Corine, we want to
All
be
right.
respectful of your time. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time and energy. We've really enjoyed
Well,
talking to you today.
Yeah,
I
and
think
thank
we
you for
can-
waking up
Okay.
a little early.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I think you can hear
Sorry.
from Brittany just how grateful we are
Well,
for everything.
I know I ran off to the side and kind of got away from one subject and another, but that's
That was
just my
great.
talking. But
It was great.
but you keep me on track, so I like that. All right. Well, girls, you have a good week, and just stay in touch, and we're gonna be okay.
Great talking with you.
Sure will.
Yeah,
Have a good
well,
rest.
Okay. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Bye.
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 That was
love
lovely.
That was lovely.
So nice.
Hmm.
Good job, team.
Yay.
Yay. Ugh, the
Ooh,
back
tag
channeling works.
teaming and yeah.
Yeah,
The back
and
channeling
honestly,
works so
I feel
well.
like the tangents. Well, for one, I think it was really helpful. You all redirecting. I think that was great. Like, definitely better than last conversation. But I
Mhm.
think the tangents that she went on, like, I think they kind of give this glimpse into like really important other areas that's like
Yeah.
we really need to, I think, honor and give a space for her to talk. And you know, like, I think there's gonna be those throughout, no matter what subject we're talking about. I'm sure
Oh,
there's
yeah.
gonna be trauma, no matter.
Especially if you ask about the challenges, because
Yeah.
Exactly.
a lot of them.
Yeah. But I think it's so important that that's like a part of every topic, that it's like give a space to talk about that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I felt because it's good to know about, but like I don't want her to feel like, and it's good for us to listen and witness that, but I also
Yeah.
don't want her to like get too far down in the spiral, you know,
Yeah.
and like relive things that she maybe doesn't have to.
That's why I was glad about that redirect from Michelle about,
Yeah.
her hopes and stuff. Like, that's such a
Yeah.
good way to
Yeah,
get up
it's
out
good
of
way
that
to-
dark space.
Yeah, good job.
And you can hear it in her voice how she lit up. You're talking about
Yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was great. I have so many great quotes. One of my favorites was it's more than just the all-American careful. It's like,
Yeah.
Yes, I got chills thinking about it. Like, she's so right. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't get that much in Texas anymore because people just think I'm Chicana. They don't see me as Native American because we don't have that much exposure. But in Louisiana, for sure, it is.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Well, I think what you brought to the table, Brittany, about talking about your experience and connecting it back to what she was talking about was really added an extra layer to this. And I'm just so grateful that you were able to contribute that and kind of come full circle with expressing gratitude. And it was really beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad I was able to contribute something.
Yeah, it was awesome.
No,
It
it
was
was
beautiful.
Oh, hugs all around, virtual hugs from afar.
This
I always
project,
leave these like wanting, it's like, all right, now I need gumbo or something. It's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feels
are
wrong to spend a Sunday without everyone together.
I
I
know.
agree.
it's just so soul nourishing to do these. I don't know. I really like how this project is
Yeah.
like naturally
Oh.
evolving into this, like, I don't know. I feels like Sunday church, like just
Yeah.
sitting around.
Exactly.
Totally.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. Because like I don't know. I just like I do like I sketch and I listen, and every once in a while I put something in. It's like, oh man, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
That's great.
Now I want to go type up some letters to the governor of Louisiana.
Yeah.
Got me like fired up.
It's amazing to think about how many different things she has her hands in too.
I know.
Like from
She just
starting
started
Indian.
that association. She just
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Like how she
Yeah.
talks about. She's like, "Well, we just decided to do it, so we did."
And
I'm
we
Yeah,
like,
I
have our
looked it up.
grant.
It's
We have it.
definitely a nonprofit. There's not much about it, but it's like it's on GuideStar, so it's like a certified
"Oh wow,
nonprofit.
yeah."
Yeah. Just like low key changing the
know.
world,
She's so
desegregating.
nonchalant. She's like, "I got bored one day and decided to do this." You know, it's like,
Yeah, she's so funny. The way she describes it is so nonchalant. Like it's always with like, oh yeah, and we did something like that, and it's like
Yeah.
something like that is starting an entire organization. And
well, like, yeah, because like even like how I said, I'm 32 years old and I still remember it. It's something so nonchalant to her. It's helping me keep the culture alive here in Texas for my kids.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
my kids
Yeah.
can't be a part of Indian education, Louisiana, and we don't have Indian education in Texas. You know, we have a reservation, the Alabama Cushada, which is like 2 hours south of us near Houston, and that's about it. Like I had problems with my kids in the school here, which is called Sabine. And
You gotta be kidding me.
no, I'm serious. It's Sabine Elementary. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. And so
Oh
one year my son was in first grade and they decorated the whole school in teepees and arrows and said
Oh my
tribes and stuff like
God.
that.
no.
And I had to get them to change the class shirt, which was a teepee with a cardinal coming out the teepee busting through. I was like, look, I know we can't change the shirt logo, whatever, but can I please just not have my son wear this shirt? Because it was for like field trips to recognize the
Yeah.
kids and stuff.
Oh my
Like, can I
God.
just have him wear this color shirt and then it'll be okay? But they ended up changing the shirt, which is awesome. I didn't even ask them to do that, but they kept the school decorations and everything. And then even after meeting with the assistant principal, she's like, I didn't know we had any Indians in the school. She's like, the only thing I know about Indians is the Cleveland, mascots and stuff.
Oh my
Well, it don't
God.
matter
Like,
if they have one Indian in the school or a lot.
exactly.
There's-
Exactly. I told her, I'm like, I'm not the only one. I knew of like two other families that were Choctaw, and one's Choctaw,
my
one's
gosh.
Kiowa, and she didn't even know.
That really, what Corine was saying about like the representation. I don't
Yeah.
know. I never realized. I never put two and two together about like how great, first of all, how great the Indian education program was and how sustained and how much of an impact it has on our tribe. And then how much of it has to do with people who are going into a school claiming their indigenous heritage or their indigenous presence on those roll cards that come in, and how important the race boxes are to check on that. Because if there's not enough race boxes checked for that, then the school is like, you can't petition or advocate for your school to have a native program, which means the entire program.
Yeah.
And how all of these parishes programs were so interconnected, and it was like this net, but it all depends on these people, like everyone checking that and claiming themselves on their roll cards. I don't know, it just like it like shifted it together and made us realize, when I'm thinking about places to impact, about like getting how important it is to get people to claim or to acknowledge their own,
Or just making it a
indigenousness.
more inclusive way for it to be a part of the school, rather than this like really rigid, like has to be, I'm sure they would be like, has to be enrolled members of it. Like I'm sure that they make it pretty hard to get that number.
Yeah.
Brittany, was it like, I was just trying to understand what exactly the program was. It infused in regular classes, or it was a separate program within the school?
It was separate. Hold on, sorry. It was separate within the school. It's like
Like an elective, kind of?
Yeah, it had to do with grades. Like you had to have a certain amount of grades to qualify if you were an Indian child, and you had to have the paperwork done. Your parents had to fill out that you're Native American or whatever, so that if anything came up, because they didn't know year to year what would happen. If anything came up, you would get notified. And I think towards the end of the year, you would get a letter saying that you're invited to the camp, you qualified because your grades were good. You had to have like a 2.5 GPA throughout the year, I think, at least, to be
Well,
able
I
to go
think
to
that's
these
great
things.
because it's encouraging kids to perform, but that shouldn't be a prerequisite for you having access to this,
Yeah, I know.
and if you want someone to claim their identity, then that needs to be accessible to everybody so that then they feel inclined to claim their identity because they
Yeah.
have some point of reference in history.
And I think it's still kind of like that in Lafourche Parish too, like to be able to go to like the leadership camps at least. And I think that might be the only thing that's going on, is that you have to have a certain GPA to be able to go.
Hmm.
I was talking to Melanie, I think it was Melanie Billiot she runs the Lafourche Parish Indian Education, and they're like
Mhm.
in dire straits right now. I think that she doesn't even have a contract for the upcoming school year just because the funds just have gone away.
She wanted me, well, her daughter Melanie Ford wanted me to just said, you can go help her. She still does stuff because she needs help. But I'm like, I'm in Texas, so it's just not much I can do.
Yeah. I don't know. I have it in my back of my mind. It would be really great if we can write a grant to help them or somehow find a way to get them more support.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
this might be the working group she was describing. Maybe, you know, we could be an impromptu working group
Yeah.
to help
mhm.
support. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause, like even when I was in school, it was always a chance that it wouldn't happen because like I mentioned, we had summer camps. It was just a week at Worley. I think it was the junior high then, next to the Piggly Wiggly in Westwego. And the one year we couldn't because for whatever reason they were working on it on the gym or something like that. So we had to go to Butler
Mhm.
and do it there. Um, so like, yeah, your funding also dependent on which places we could rent out or if a school was available to us, whether they would charge us or not. And then the volunteers, like, I'm pretty sure they didn't get paid. I don't know if they covered gas for them to get there because some people lived in different states. We had one man from, I think he was Arizona or New Mexico. He came. I
Wow.
remember him only because his last name meant devil. And I was like, oh, that's so weird. But yeah, and we had other people from Mississippi, and yeah, it was just different people all around.
Yeah.
Like people that worked at the camp?
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
There's some people I think came from Alabama. I know. I don't know if y'all know a woman named Yellow Fawn. She died a few years ago. I think she lived in New Orleans, but she was originally from up north.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure how they met with her, but yeah, and the guy from Arizona, he worked there as like in a supervisor role, like helped the classes change because we didn't stay in the same classroom, so they had to have like a really organized schedule, because they would ring the bell and we had different periods. So like for one class, we would go. They would separate the girls and boys to make their regalia, and then ring the bell, and we would go and do a history lesson
Hmm.
and ring the bell again. And it was lunch, and we all got together for lunch and had a recess. And then we had like a PE, which is where we would learn how to dance or like throw like the bow and arrow, stuff like that.
Hmm.
So it was like a regular school day, but just with Indian education.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah. That's such an important history. I hope that the Nichols students write something about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can get some conversations happening, and then maybe that would help if we did apply for a grant or something on their behalf. Then there would already be some buzz.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's something that's unique to the Southeast. I know there are places in the North and in the West that different tribes do that in schools, or they have their own schools. But in the Southeast specifically, because I don't think the Tunica Biloxi do that in the schools. I don't know. I have to ask.
They do a summer camp, but they don't.
Yeah, they do summer camps, but yeah, I don't think they
That's
do like
different.
yeah. I don't know.
Okay, yo, I guess we have a lot to think about, but really
Yeah.
exciting and soul nourishing, like y'all said.
Yeah.
Really, thank you for everyone that made this possible. It's just like enriching my life in so many ways personally.
Great. Good
Thank
game,
you for
y'all. This
including
is
me.
beautiful.
So happy
Yeah.
you were able to join, Brittany.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
All right, y'all. Well, have a good Sunday, and
Happy Sunday.
I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. I think we meet again.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah,
All
or
right.
if y'all want to make it tomorrow, we'll have Josh Henson on the meeting tomorrow. He's he works in the Chickasaw language and culture, and we're gonna ask him to look over like lessons and things that we've made for y'all to catch up on,
That is so cool.
other stuff. So if y'all want to join at 8 o'clock tomorrow night, y'all are more than welcome to do so.
9 p.m. Eastern, right?
9 p.m. Eastern, yes.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for the invitation, Brittany.
You're welcome.
All right.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right. See you guys. Bye.